everyone, welcome to today's video. My name is Brittany Simon and I'm an educator here on YouTube. I cover things like alternative lifestyles, news, queerness, polyamory, ethical non-monogamy, and BDSM. Because I cover BDSM and only a slew of us do in an educational way, I was asked in February by one of you the safety of another YouTuber. You asked me if he was safe, if he was educated, and if he was someone you should learn from. His name was BegForJay. BegForJay is a content creator here on YouTube who uses this platform to gain power so he can meet models and abuse women. This video will expose that. The reason I am making this video is because I have worked with Jay. After I got that Tumblr Anon message, I did reach out to him on Twitter. On February 22nd of 2018, I asked him, hey, I would like to meet with you. I would like to see if we could collab. We ended up meeting for a lunch, which I ended up being sick for and halfway through had to leave. The most interesting detail I learned from Jay that day was that he was 23 and a dom, and that I was mistaken to think that he was older. This is important, as it will correlate to some evidence in the future of this video. But for now, let's focus on this intro because I have to give you a trigger warning. The video footage you're about to see is violent. The video footage you're about to see does have horrible stories of women's encounters with Jay. We will talk about things that could be traumatic, and if they will upset you, I recommend that you pause the video and don't watch it. Instead, I have made a written out statement that, though might not seem as fulfilling without the physical evidence, will give you an idea of what I talk about in this video, and I do recommend that you read it down below. I collabed with Jay on 3 videos, which are all taken down on my channel. After allegations came out, I tried my hardest to do my due diligence as an educator and to find out were these allegations true. Without sufficient evidence, I had to decide on continuing to work with Jay, only to discover that that was indeed a mistake. And I 100% take responsibility for this. I did not vet him good enough. I allowed my bias of wanting a positive male role model on YouTube to cloud my judgment. He says 85% of the things on his videos that are correct about BDSM, but it's a ruse. It's a ruse so he can get women into bed so he can hurt them. And this is not okay. Using my lifestyle and the lifestyle I love and that so many of us love, millions of people around the world, so you can abuse women is completely unethical on so many levels. I have evidence that breaks BDSM law, which is important. I understand that this is a vanilla platform, vanilla meaning non-kink or BDSM here on YouTube. And I understand that if you've come across my video, there might be words that I'm using that don't make sense to you. That's totally understandable. BDSM vocabulary is different. I'm going to go ahead and give you definitions of words as I speak throughout this video, but if I miss anything or you have follow-up questions, please let me know in the comment section down below. I am completely here to help you. The idea behind this is that I don't want anyone in my community to be hurt anymore. We tried countless times reaching out to Jay. Other mentors, people who are experienced in the community, have offered him mentorships, opportunities to learn. He's declined them all, myself included. Jay, if you're watching this, you'll remember that we spoke on the phone and I asked you, had you abused women? And you said to me, on the life of my daughter, I have not abused women. I swear to you, Brittany. And I told you, Jay, that if you lied to me, that if I find out you've hurt women, that I will drag you on the internet and I will do everything in my power to keep my community safe. This is me keeping my promise. And one last note before we continue forward. If you are currently working with Jay, if you know Jay, if you're concerned about Jay, if you're considering Jay, this isn't a video to say you are a bad person. I fell for it and dozens of girls before you fell for it. If you decide to take your chance to play and work with him, as long as you're doing it with informed consent, as long as you understand all the details of this video and you still decide to work with him, that's on you. But if you have any comments or concerns or you're really just unsure, message me. I'm here for you. I understand that in the past, anytime Jay was challenged, he sent a slew of humans to attack those humans questioning Jay. Please don't attack any of the women in this video. Please don't attack anyone who doesn't have the tools to defend themselves like I do. Attack me. I'm the one with the platform. I'm the one who decided to make a public statement. And I am asking you to bring any amount of anger or frustration you have towards me and not these other women. These women have suffered enough. In this video, you will see interviews with these women who have been abused and battered by Jay, women who are looking at hospital visits and surgery options because of the damage he inflicted. Some of the women are not going to show their faces in this video, but have made statements for me to share with you. It is my job as an educator and a platform holder to hold myself to my own standard and to make sure that everyone understands that I do not condone Jay. I don't want to work with Jay. I don't want to be associated with Jay. I currently have one Instagram photo of us up, and this has a warning that he is a violent person. I also have comments all over his videos promoting his content. I'm going to try my hardest to delete all those comments. If I miss one, message me the video link and I will delete it. I do not want my name associated with Jay. I've already used my power to promote a horrible person, and I'm going to try my best to deplatform him or to make clear that he is unsafe to play with. He's already banned in local communities throughout the United States, BDSM-wise, and we want to continue doing this. This is a part of the protocol of the BDSM communities to expel anyone who could be a harm to our community. We take it very seriously. Safety is our #1 factor. And I know that seems confusing for people who don't understand BDSM, but imagine it like this. You know when you watch the X Games or boxing, and those are two athletes who understand that their bodies might be shattered to pieces anytime someone throws a punch or someone goes down a ramp? That's what BDSM is like. It allows you community, consistency, rules, and rituals. It allows you to be determined and have goals, and it lifts you up and makes you a better person. I love BDSM. BDSM is a wonderful lifestyle, and some do live it casually, while others, like myself, live it 24/7. It's a part of my narrative as a human. And the last thing I want is someone using my lifestyle to hurt other people. So I hope this video clarifies who Jay is and why I think he's unsafe, and it allows you to make informed decisions on whether or not you want to associate or play with him. So on February 22nd, I did send that tweet out to Jay on his DMs, asking him for a collaboration or at least for lunch to see if he wanted to collab. We met for lunch, I got sick, I learned he was 23, I went home. We continued to text and tweet back and forth to one another, collaborating on ideas. We decided on sadism. During those few weeks between the time I had met him and the time when we would eventually film, I ended up finding a girl on the internet named Milkwebs. Her name is Lo. She is a sweet and knowledgeable human who I owe a lot to because she is one of his victims. A woman he claimed was his and a woman he so easily disregarded. When I decided to collab with Lo on my channel, links down below for clarification and transparency, I wasn't quite sure they were a couple yet, but I knew that they were connected. And I asked her, are you a thing? They were under negotiation at the time. By the time that Jay and I ended up physically collabing in our video, they were an item, which he was happy to announce in the video. She is his. That makes me so feel so much better. I even told Lola, who, if you guys know, I interviewed actually Lola just like 2 weeks ago or so about littles and BDSM, and now you guys you're doing the thing. You're doing the whole
yeah, she's
thing.
mine.
Yeah. Her interactions with Jay is important because she and I are friends. We became friends through this process. She and I would talk pretty frequently, and right before Jay and I were to film, she offered me a place in their podcast, which I declined. The podcast, though sounds lovely, is not something I wanted to be a part of because I had too many projects happening already. The podcast never ended up going anywhere because they eventually did break up, but that is for later in the story. For right now, let's focus on something that was said in the podcast. In the podcast, I talked about sadism, and Lo asked Jay, what does sadism mean to you? Jay didn't quite have an answer, so Lo gave him one.
I think though, okay, so I think that as far as sadism and masochism goes, anytime that you are able to experience that in a long distance relationship, it's pretty unique. Because I think that is actually a really good picture of sadism, that it's like, because I think a thing with sadism that people think is just that like they just like to hurt people, but I think that's the big difference between people who are into pain play and sadists is that it's not so much that you like to hurt people as much as you like to watch people hurt for you, and that's a difference, and I don't think that people see that very often.
This answer is beautiful. It speaks to me. It's lovely and poetic. It's also familiar. In my video with Jay that was taken after that recording, but not to my knowledge had been said, he said this about sadism and what it means to him. Let's just start with sadism. How would you describe your sadism, or what a sadist is, to a person who is not only outside of our community, but even inside of our community? Like, what makes your sadism unique to Jay?
I think that my definitions on things are so simplistic that I really don't find a reason to make it so broad and like descriptive. Realistically, it's the enjoyment of someone hurting for you. I can't say inflicting pain because for instance, I have a couple long distance subs. Now, there's only so much pain I can personally inflict on them. So with that being said, it's more so just the gist of that person being harmed for you, and they know that it's the pleasure of that.
This is important. This is a part of Jay's MO, something women had warned me of, but I didn't listen. He tends to take the words of others and play them off as his own. In this video recording with him and I actually bring up compatibility, and I talk about even though we're all BDSM and we might have the same interests, it doesn't mean we're compatible. The next day, he went and made that video on his channel without a shout out, taking it upon himself to make it appear like he had just created it out of thin air, but not as submissive. Because even though Jay talks about dominance in the way I want my dom to talk about dominance, it's his daddy domness and his other parts of what he needs, I can't provide. So we would be ill-matched in the DS aspect. And that is so important to recognize and be okay with. Because even though, like, I listen to him and I'm like, oh, fuck, like, this is good, it doesn't mean that we're well matched. And so when you're meeting people, when you're trying to find your dom, trying to find your submissive, trying to do these things, remember that even though it looks good on paper, it doesn't mean it's going to be good in person.
So guys, I really didn't have a main topic that I was going to do a video on this week. And typically I have I have a list of ideas that I could definitely do topics on, but I feel like my videos are so in the moment and they're so just me ranting for the most part that it doesn't really work when it's a subject that I really prepared and planned for, because I just want it to kind of spill out. So I'm going to talk about something that kind of hit me that I want to have you guys understand, and that's compatibility. How do I find a partner? And I think the easiest way to find a partner is just like finding a boyfriend or a girlfriend. It's not easy.
As YouTubers, we understand what that feels like, right? For someone to take an idea that we had and then to go make a video on it. Not giving you credit doesn't feel good. It didn't feel good. YouTuber to YouTuber didn't feel good. BDSM educator to BDSM educator felt worse. Now, Jay did say at one point to me that he didn't want to be known as an educator, just as a man living the lifestyle. That's an issue because he makes a lot of how-to videos. He makes a lot of instructional videos. He makes a lot of examples of how it looks videos. And the problem is that if you're not informed on the issues, you will give examples that are just not correct. And even though a lot of his content was basically okay, there were parts of it that were absolutely not okay.
There's a difference between daddy dom and master? Huge difference. All right, check it out. I'm gonna make it short and sweet and as simple as possible. Master. A master basically controls your entire life. Don't get me wrong, there's limits when it comes to being with a master, but most slaves have such a small list of limits which allows them to be a complete slave. A daddy dom is when the whole, I guess you could say more of the limits, the nurturing, the caring, the outside of the bedroom type stuff comes into play. A lot of people mix that up. A master is somebody that's going to control your entire life and you literally live to serve them in any way that they want and they hardly give you anything back. That's it. Like, that's the reality of it.
Interestingly enough, as the interview continued on, there were some red flags that also stood out. Things like him never bottoming, never having a strict mentor, never having someone who could teach him these things. Where did he learn them? This is also a red flag. In BDSM, you have to have quite the amount of years of experience before you can own titles, or at least you should. Some people will disagree on this, but for safety reasons, it's important to know what that title means and the responsibilities associated with it.
I actually told you, how can you be 22 with 6 years of experience? That
doesn't make any sense to me either.
Yeah, and so if you started when you were 16, yet everyone that we've talked to a year ago, you were non-existent. So I'm kind of curious where you learned.
I learned from actually a number of people. I had experimented when I was younger with a girl named and she had been involved with a dominant prior to me. So when I got involved with her, that's
so it's
how
child abuse then. If she was involved with a dominant, you were 16.
Yeah.
So you were. So, I mean, that's pretty severe.
Well, she was actually, I think she just turned 18.
If Jay got involved in BDSM when he was 16, that was illegal. Whoever did that with him did not care about him. Minors in our community are not involved for a reason. BDSM is considered basically torture or assault to the US government, and you have to be 18 or over so you can legally defend yourself against any of the accusations that could come upon you. It's not a matter of consent or sexual consent, because BDSM isn't always about sex. I myself don't involve sex in my BDSM. And if I do, it's only through primal play with very, very foundation partners. It's about power exchange. And the reason we have contracts or negotiations or emails or text or something is to make it clear about our intent. Is to also make it clear that mistakes might happen and we have put things in place to avoid those mistakes, like safe words. Yellow, meaning slow down or change what you're doing. Or red, meaning stop. When these safe words are ignored, like Jay had ignored them in the past with other play partners, people get hurt.
The thing is, you haven't got any experience, you haven't got any training. Yes, you're dominant, but you're not a dom yet. Okay?
Well, under everything that I've known from the people that I've met, that's what I know.
Exactly,
You know what
yes,
I mean?
I understand that. But saying to these girls, when they come in, I'm going to dominate, I'm going to do these different things with you. You're the only point of view they have on the community.
Correct.
So they judge the community based on you.
Correct.
So this affects the entire community and brings all the community down to this level when it should be up at this high level. My recommendation, there's a few recommendations. BDSM 101, for one, a good book and read it, right, from start to finish, so you can actually get a grip of what it is. And then I'll send you a whole bunch of material.
From what he's saying, you understand you're not a dom. You understand that now, right?
You're dominant, you're not a dom.
So you're a dominant man who likes rough sex.
All I'm saying is, you don't represent the community yet.
So realistically, what it comes down to is I have not in the past year, right, practiced what I preached.
Jay likes to claim that he's had enough experience in the community to take on this role as not only a YouTuber, but as a person who can own people. In BDSM, we use terms like own to say I have a claim on someone. They're not literal. No one can ever own you. You are never anyone's property. You have agency and freedom. If you are in America, you have options. And I recommend you seek out those options of freedom. But Jay did something interestingly different. He would use specific words, ownership ideas. He would put limits on the women he was barely even involved with. It became apparent to me that Jay was definitely a douchebag. And a douchebag I can forgive because they're young and reckless. And you also need to make sure that if you're involved with a douchebag, you make sure you know what you're doing. But the thing is that Jay used his douchebaggery as a disguise, as a distraction for what was lying underneath. And I think that's a predator. He's somebody who uses the word mistake for his consistent actions, the same one he repeats over and over again with new girls. Jay is calculated.
It was a combination of her repeatedly calling me dude and different things that we had discussed her not to call me. I can't remember every detail at the moment.
So the punishment was because after he had told her that you can come to me whenever and ask me anything and I'll tell you if I'm cheating or if anything, I'll be open with you. He punished her and told her this is what you get for not listening and not trusting me.
I don't recall that, but okay.
It's okay. I can show you the screenshots, messages and stuff. Yeah.
This is from her.
This is
telling you.
This is a text message from him saying, "Next time, don't question Daddy." And da 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 da. I hope you can't sit for a week.
Which I think is pretty normal after punishment. That doesn't really do.
Bleeding is normal.
Severe punishment under contract. You can bleed, and it's pretty fucking severe after 2 weeks of together. But
I don't remember her bleeding for 2 weeks. She had sent me photos of just
you being in a contract.
Oh, 2 weeks.
Okay, I understand.
For being so short into a DS, it's very unusual. It's like to build. Normally, it takes me about 3 months to build a slave to that level that can actually handle it.
No, I understand.
I would probably put her on timeout, knowing that she's 19 and frustrated and can't talks on phones or texts. I think that would be a more appropriate punishment.
Which is my
telling her
mistake,
not to text.
right? Which I'm totally saying that. Hey, I made mistakes. I'm not saying I didn't fuck
text.
up. I'm not saying that at all.
Don't text me for 4 days. That would be my punishment to her because she couldn't handle it.
Which is why, I told you, hey, I've made mistakes and there's things that I want to learn from you so I can benefit myself, right?
Yeah.
When I was doing research initially, not this time around, the first time I tried to research Jay, there were some women who came to me, some women who had said they played with him or been with him, and that their experiences with him were awful. Not thorough, they never wanted to go to BDSM again because of the way he had scarred them. But deep down, they really wanted to relive the lifestyle. One of the women who came forward to talk to me was a woman named Bella, who had worked with Jay in the past. They were friends. Bella is now officially my mentee. I've taken her under my wing, and I am showing her the ropes of BDSM, quite literally, as she's a rope bottom. One of the things that became abundantly clear, though, was that there was some confusion as to her association with Jay and her association with me. Bella wants nothing to do with Jay and does not associate with Jay. I've made a formal statement that Bella has approved for me to share with you in regards to my status with Bella. Bella has worked with Jay in the past. She no longer works with him. She has not worked with him directly or made new content with him since she became my mentee. She's my mentee. I'm responsible in keeping her safe. She does not play with people I don't approve of, and while she's in my care, she will not do that. So Bella is mine. Please do not harass or berate her with comments. If you have any issues, you can come to me. I will handle it. But she has no association with Jay. If for whatever reason she chooses to associate with him again or chooses to play with people against my instruction, she will be let go from my mentorship. But it is my job, while she is my mentee, to keep her safe. And so I am asking you to respect her boundaries and leave her alone in this regard, and come to me with any questions or inquiries. The reason I bring up Bella right now in this part of the story is because we're going to jump into the stories of other women. He says it was a mistake, something he can learn from. But he didn't learn. He continued to abuse women, neglected them, teased them, led them on. Some women had interactions with him where he swore they were the only one, while he was continuously sleeping with other people. Jay justifies this in a text message to one of the girls he was involved with. Oddity and Things, Kylie, who's been wonderful and completely forthcoming, has this argument with him over text, reminding him that he had lied to women, and his justification, it wasn't a lie. I don't sleep with women at the same time. Sometimes it's a little while after. This is a manipulation tactic. This is a complete manipulation tactic. Plain English language and culture surrounding Southern California would imply that when a woman asks you, are you sleeping with anyone else, she doesn't literally mean at the same time. That's traditionally what we call a threesome. And if it had been at the same time, she would have been aware and not asked. Him trying to derail the conversation or trying to pretend like it's just him being a player is a manipulation tactic. And it's disappointing. There were many people who spoke to me about Jay, about his potential to be such a great dom. I'm not sure of that potential at all. I'm not even sure he could be redeemed. I'm open to it, as I am always open to redemption. But he has made it crystal clear that he is uninterested in becoming a better person. One of the things in the video that I want to make sure that I hit home with is that Jake continuously brings up his baby mama and his child being the most important thing in his life. In the interview with the master in the BDSM community and the other individuals who are there to witness, the master recommends that he pulls his stuff off of stop doing BDSM, pulls his stuff on the internet, recommends that he stops it all because he should be a father first and not a BDSMer. His primary job and income doesn't even come from YouTube. It comes from an outside vanilla job where he makes, according to him, $10,000 a month. He does not need to be doing YouTube. And the fact that somebody experienced, and I will back up this comment, recommends to him to take a year off, to focus on his daughter, she's not even a year old, to make sure that his life is in order, to make sure he's being a good father, decides, nah, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Even though the US government, and if somebody calls CPS, might end up taking my kid away because there's videos of me hitting women on the internet. Except now there's a video of him on the internet admitting to beating women. Admitting to making them black and blue and bloody. Admitting to not knowing better. Lying. Not being consistent. This is bigger than being a player. This is being a predator. A person who is willing to play with you should also be a person who keeps the people in their life safe. And that is number one for me. My BDSM ethics travels outside. Even in vanilla land, I want informed consent. I want sobriety. I want people to know that they are making a choice to be with me because they want to be with me. Not through manipulation, not because I'm cute, not because of money, not because of my fame, not because of anything. I want to make sure that this is clear. Jay is not this type of human. Jay is a human who just wants what he wants. He doesn't care about people's feelings, and he doesn't care about the aftermath. The aftermath is the lives he has ruined, the therapy that is needed, the medical expenses that need to be paid. This isn't a joke. I'm not laughing. This isn't funny. You hurt people without an ounce of regret or empathy or anything. And the worst part is that I help facilitate that even for a second. When I worked with Jay, he had 10,000 subs. He now has over 30. When I decided to stop working with him and take the content off the internet of what we had done together, I decided after counseling a lot of the women I had talked to, and I said, if we don't talk about him, maybe his numbers won't grow, and we can ignore him and he'll go away. He didn't go away. He got bigger. He's grown a lot. So Jay, this is me telling you that you are unsafe for my community, that you are not welcome in my community, that I will not allow you to continue abusing women who are too naive and too young to make better rational decisions. See, in BDSM, and you would know this if you were in it, it is our responsibility as the people who know more. It is our responsibility as the sadists and the tops and the doms to make sure that our bottoms are well informed. It is our responsibility to keep them safe. It is also their responsibility to advocate for themselves. But when you go after new people who have never been in the lifestyle, who do not know these things, and you claim, oh, I'll teach you, in that action alone, you are a predator. I have this new mentee, this 20-year-old woman who is allowing me a chance to teach her something valuable. And I take that with so much responsibility, so much honor. This is somebody who is coming to me to help them, in the same way a sibling or a parent or a neighbor would. And it would be a disservice to my community to dishonor that by abusing her further. But all these women have come forth with evidence and video and audio, and he denied it to my face. He swore on the life of his child he had not abused women. That is not a good person. That is a dangerous human. You hurt women, and instead of showing remorse or begging for forgiveness, you said, it was a mistake. Hopefully, with this video, you won't have opportunities to continue making those mistakes. I appreciate everyone who came forth, everybody who put their name to this video, everyone who put their blood, sweat, and tears into creating this, who talked to me and spoke to me, who cried with me. Thank you. I am so sorry he hurt you. And I'm so sorry to all the future victims that might get trampled in his path. And I am sorry as a content creator, and I'm sorry as a woman, and I'm sorry as a BDSMer for ever allowing him on my platform. This isn't just about me. This is about our community. This is so much bigger than even all the women involved. This is bigger than Jay. Jay is just one of many predators who uses BDSM to abuse people. One of the tactics I want you to focus on that Jay uses in regards to BDSM is projection. He has videos dedicated to anti-online doms, anti-50 Shades of Grey. He is literally the epitome of it. It's a very skilled projection act. Just like the Attorney General in New York, who was a part of the Me Too movement and ended up being a serial abuser of women, also using BDSM, that is Jay. I made the prediction a few months ago when I made that video about the New York General that Jay would be heading in that direction of abuse, and that was before I had the evidence. That was my gut telling me. And again, I hesitated to listen. I didn't make a video. I didn't dig deeper. I waited another month or two. But I'm here now, and I'm so sorry I waited so long. But I'm here now, and I hope it helps. I guess the way to start is to ask you who you are in relation to Jay, who are you as a content creator, and we can kind of move from there.
Okay. In relation to Jay, I was his little, and yeah, I was his little. And as far as on the internet, I make YouTube videos, and I'm a sex worker, mostly centered around BDSM and DDLG.
Perfect. And then I just want you to go ahead and feel free to tell us your story, and then we can kind of bounce off each other, because the way we met was through Jay. Well, actually, you know what? That's not technically true. The way I actually found Lo was because I was on Jay's channel and YouTube recommended your videos, and I asked you to work with me before I knew you were technically dating, because that's actually when I found out you were actually, well, I guess, I don't know if dating's the appropriate word, actually. Do you want to correct me on that? Is dating the appropriate word?
Jay definitely would not have used the word dating. He said we were in a relationship, which, I mean, I guess that means because we weren't actively going on dates. I don't know where the, terminology stops and starts, but, okay. Yeah, so yeah, I don't know. We were in a relationship, and I was his little, and that is, I think, how both of us defined that.
Okay, perfect. Well, do you want to go ahead and kind of start sort of your experience of it? I think it's, we started talking, we became friends because, well, I liked working with you a lot, and you were very knowledgeable about the community. You had been in it for many years, and to some extent, I was sort of even surprised a little bit that Jay and you had ended up fighting each other just because I found you to be a lot more knowledgeable. So maybe we can talk about that. How did it start?
Right. It started because of, I mean, how all things start. You know, we saw each other, and I think that there was, I mean, a very shallow physical attraction in the beginning, as, you know, most humans react to attractive people. And I had seen one of his videos, and it was the video that he had made about, like, fake doms on the internet.
Well, my whole point is, I see these dominants post, and a lot of people go, oh, how do I see the difference between a fake dom and a real dom? Well, I mean, in reality, what I've learned about this scene is, even as a real dominant, right, even as somebody that you meet as a real dominant, or me, or whatever the case may be, there's always going to be drama surrounding it. There's always going to be a submissive, or somebody that doesn't like that person that's going to say, oh, they're fake, they don't like this, they don't like that, they lied about this, they're, you know, whatever the case may be. I've met people that are phenomenal dominants, and they had one submissive that they pissed off, and boom, like it blows up in their face, and everybody's like, oh my god, he's an abuser, yada yada yada. It's the scene. No matter where you slice it, whether it's online or in person or in your community or outside of your community, no matter how you slice it, that's just how it is. And as I heavily got into the community, because obviously I just launched myself in an open platform to be not only in the community in my city, but also in the community online, right?
Which is so ironically,
yeah. Ironically enough. And I think our conversation started from there, and it really, it was this very, like, picture perfect thing. Like, it felt very much like all of these things that I had as kinks, that were even, like, the really extreme ones, were, like, things that he was also super interested in. And, like, we talked about gaslighting a little bit, and he was like, I've never heard somebody use that on their limit list. And I was like, that's fucking crazy, but okay. You know, whatever. But so yeah, it was just like this very, very almost too perfect. I mean, it was too perfect to be real, but at the time it just seemed incredibly magnificent. You know, like, it was like, how do you find somebody that matches you so well? Because that doesn't happen. There's, like, a lot of things that I know logically that I should have done first.
But that's so natural. Like, how many people do we see on his channel now or on his Twitter saying, like, I would totally fly to you right now, I would be with you right now. Like, he's very, you can't deny it, he's objectively, like, attractive. But, like, he has this charisma around him that if you put enough bias, like, over your lens and tell yourself, like, all your gut feelings are wrong, like, you could fall for it. But
it's true. And I think that was, like, the biggest thing, is that I had all these gut feelings of, like, I don't think this is real, I don't think this is good. But I fell for it. I fell for, like, everything that he told me. He made himself seem like this very perfect match. And it was just too good to pass up, but also I should have known better. And because I've been in this community for a long time, and it was very, very not like me. And also very, very beyond what I know to be good and what I know to be the right way of doing things. And so, yeah, I mean, I definitely made the mistake, and that was my mistake. But I don't think.
Well, even though, and I just want to say, like, I think for the record, like, I met him twice. I should have vetted him more before I worked with him. And I had this idea that, you know, he's a content creator, and even if he's kind of a douchebag, like, there's nothing, like, against being a douchebag. There's just against things like lying and abusing, which he obviously eventually was proved to be doing. But I even knew better. And you know what? Like, all I know now is that here we are to make amends and to save our community from more harm. And so I'm kind of curious about, you know, even though you made the choice to say yes to him, you did not make the choice to have him gaslight you, lie to you, you know, throw people under the bus, lie to me. Like, those weren't things you consented to, right?
Right. And I think that's the thing. And, you know, there's definitely parts of it that I should have known better about, but there's also things that there's no way I could have known about. You know, there were things that happened, like, very intensely abusive things in an emotional abusive way that I never could have foreseen coming. And even if I had been hesitant, and even if I had waited until I met him, he was incredibly good at painting a picture of himself that I never would have seen it coming. And so yeah, it was an experience that I'm embarrassed about, like I'm embarrassed that I was like involved with BegForJay.
Yeah.
Like it's an embarrassing thing. Like that's not something that I like want to be known for, or like that I want to be super public, because it's embarrassing. Like that isn't the type of person that I think represents our community, and like that's not the type of person that should be an educator. And so it's embarrassing, but I've learned so much and I've met incredible people through it. But the abuse, like there was abuse, and I know that like I've heard stories from other women, and like it's almost I feel grateful in a sense that we were at a distance, and that like this didn't turn into a physically abusive situation. But there is definitely like emotional things that really fucked me up, and really that I had to deal with, that I still have to deal with, and that like I get angry about, and I don't know, just things that are not okay in this community and never will be.
But I would like you to share your perspective of maybe some of the things that he did which really stuck out to you, that really resonated with you, things that I mean, I guess let us know what kind of a character he has as a person.
Right. Okay. With my time with Jay, it was always trying to get Jay to be the person that he told me he was, and that he convinced me that he was, rather, because in the beginning of our getting to know each other, he painted this picture that was like perfect, and it was all the things that every little has ever wanted to hear, such as there is no such thing as too needy, and I will always be available whenever, stuff like that. And then it was like as soon as I said yes, as soon as we, agreed to be in this relationship, it was like night and day. It was, days without being able to communicate with him. And that is so hard. That is so hard on a little, but is especially so hard on a little when their daddy or their dom tells them that won't happen. And so I think it's the precedent. It's when you set a precedent for something, you have to follow through on that. And when that's a part of your negotiation and your contract, like you can't not follow through on that because you have a contract. And I think the majority of our relationship was me trying to get him to understand that, like that this is the set like rules that we have here, and I need you to follow through, because if you don't, I'm going to lose it. I don't know. It was just very black and white and very confusing. It was all very confusing. That was how I would classify my relationship, was just confusing. Like I never understood where I was. I never knew what I was supposed to be doing, or like how I could please this man that I had committed to pleasing. And like I always felt like a disappointment. I always felt like I was asking for too much, because he would get so angry with me when I would ask for anything.
Talk to me about the anger.
Yeah, like, he would just get so upset, like yell. He would yell, and then try to combat that by being like, oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. But he would get really angry. He would yell, and he would belittle me. He would make me feel stupid when I disagreed, or when I tried to teach him something, or when I tried to tell him that something wasn't going well. I'll give you one example. Is I talked to somebody that he didn't want me to talk to, and he made it very clear that he didn't want me to talk to this person, but I did, because this is who I am.
You're an adult,
right? And he got so mad at me that he yelled at me and called me rude, and he like would call me names, and then told me that if that's how I wanted to behave, then he didn't need to talk to me. And he hung up on me, and then didn't talk to me for the rest of the day. And I don't know if you guys have relationships with a dom or a sub or in this lifestyle at all. That is never a way to handle any sort of conflict. Unless, I guess, it is exactly agreed upon that is the way that you're allowed to treat your sub. It is so harmful to call your sub mean things, yell at them, and then not talk to them or let them have any sort of resolution for the rest of the day. Like that,
Can I ask?
On me.
The person that you weren't supposed to contact, was it one of somebody he had worked with or somebody he was associated with, or was it somebody in your private life?
Oh, it was somebody in my life.
Oh, okay. And he felt like he had the right to tell you not to talk to somebody?
Yeah, it was my ex, and we were really good friends. Like, we were so close. It's one of my best friends in the world. It was just bizarre. And, you know, it was kind of like this thing of me being like, sure, dude. You know what I mean? But, I was just so confused. Like, I never, and I actually explicitly told him that I didn't understand where he was coming from. I didn't understand, like, what this meant or, like, what I was doing wrong. That was something I kept repeating over and over. Like, I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. I don't understand what I'm doing wrong. And he would tell me, yes, you do. Don't be stupid. Yes, you do. You get it. Don't act stupid.
Right. And just for clarification for people who maybe be outside of poly or BDSM communities, honestly, I would say it's more or less more common to know your exes than not to know your exes. And I know in vanilla culture, they teach you, like, cut it off and never see those people again. And though that might be easy enough in vanilla culture, it's not always the case in smaller communities. And so it is a little abnormal to dictate that. Also, it should be explicitly negotiated if he has an ethical issue with them talking to exes or whatever else. But at the end of the day, like, you're both agent adults who get to decide who you talk to. And unless you're in a more foundationed relationship, which my understanding, you weren't planning a wedding, you weren't even together for more than 6 months, so I don't know why he thought he had the right to get so upset, unless he said, this is a hard limit, this goes against my values, which obviously we know is not true because he himself repeatedly, like, cheated and lied and abused women, so I really highly doubt it's an ethical issue. It's probably more of a possession issue, I assume.
It was, yeah, okay, so we'll go into possession then. I think, a big thing that I experienced with Jay was just this image. Everything to him was an image. And, listen, I understand images. Like, I understand public presentation, and I understand how important that can be to people, but my relationships aren't that. Like, I have no interest in having my relationships be a show, and exclusively such. He wouldn't let me post my content, things that I created, if it had other people in it, because he didn't like the idea of people thinking that I was allowed to just sleep with anybody. But first of all, it's my work, and secondly, I do get to sleep with anybody, so I don't know. It was bizarre.
He did tell me explicitly. I go, oh, are you in low poly? And he goes, well, of course, she's a sex worker. And I'm like, I don't understand your statement, because obviously, like, if she sleeps with people for work, it's not really the same thing. Like, you can be monogamous and, like, not really, like, it doesn't, in my head, it doesn't count. But for him, he was like, yeah, of course we're poly, like, because of low, as if, like, okay, you weren't poly before, or at least open or sleeping around or whatever else. But I am curious on that somewhere. So please go ahead and expand upon it a little bit. Like, your rules you had in place, like why he thought he was allowed to tell you, like, not to have these photos, but he still understood you were poly. Like, I don't understand why he thought it was his right to tell you what to post for work or for your art or for your Twitter. Like, it's yours. You're not, like, how could somebody decide in the modern day that they get to dictate that realistically?
Okay, so if I were to, like, break this down into trying to understand, like, the process behind it and why it was happening, I think it was because Jay wanted all of the control, or at least the illusion of all of the control, but didn't ever want to put in the work. He didn't ever want to put in the emotional part of it. He didn't ever want to give me anything. All that Jay wanted was to take everything from me. And that was his intention from the very beginning, was he just wanted what I could give him, and he wanted that as fast as possible. He just wanted me to give him every thing that I could give him. He wanted me to give him control of my work, which, like, listen, if I'm in a relationship and they want control of work, there are some, situations in which I am totally okay with that. And there are things that even with Jay, I was fine with him controlling as far as my work was concerned. So that wasn't ever the issue. My issue was entirely wrapped up in the fact that there was such a emotionally manipulative way of going about it, that he never explained the whys or hows of his decision making. He never explained to me what was going on. He never told me anything that I was doing good or bad. He never explained any part of our relationship to me except for the things that he needed from me. And that just doesn't work. Right. That is the entire making of an abusive person. It's just somebody who only takes and is only willing to give. I mean, I don't know. I can't think of a single thing that Jay gave me. I can't think of a single thing in our relationship that was positive. And I mean, that's why it ended so quickly. It ended so quickly because I recognized that, and I tried for so long to end my relationship with Jay. I guess a week, about a week of me trying to get him on the phone so that I could end our relationship. And he refused to have a call with me. He refused to answer my phone calls. And I continued messaging him and telling him that we had to do it properly, that he had to give me the time to end our relationship properly. And, he just kept saying he was too busy and that he had so much going on and that he had shoots to do and he had just too much work. And I told him I would be willing to stay up, and he, would call at like 5 a.m. my time, and like that was his call, and I missed my chance. So I don't know. It was so deliberate and it was so perfect. He was so good at it. And Jay is nothing if not one of the greatest manipulators I have ever seen. So
he's okay. I give him like a 6 out of 10, only because he fooled me for like a couple of months, and I'm really upset about it. Mostly because I'm upset because I put my community in danger by allowing a manipulator to take advantage of my want. My idea when I met Jay was like, oh my gosh, yes, male dom on the internet. His videos, for the most part, 85% of the content was like legit good advice. But then you dive a little deeper and you notice the exploitation, the fetishization of porn, the BDSM and everything else. Not to mention his disregard for like sex workers' rights. We don't even need to get started there, but we can. But one of the things I want to point out is that when you were breaking up with Jay, like that phone conversation, the moment Lo and I were texting, because we're friends. And then she was like, hey, we're having the phone call. And I was like, congratulations. Like, it's a really important phone call to have. They're having the conversation. The moment he hung up with her, he called me. He called me so fast. And I was like really surprised. Like, oh, they just had a breakup. Why is he calling me? And the first thing he says is like, hey, I just want you to know, like, this is the situation. Lo and I broke up. And I was like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Tell me about it, I guess. And he was telling me, and he literally went on and on about how Lo was, he was trying to break up with her for a week, how she was emotionally clingy. And I'm sitting here like, are we talking about the same Lo? And he was telling me how he was in Mexico and he couldn't call her, and he never said he was gonna call her while he was in Mexico, which I highly doubt. And then, it was all these things where he just kept making it about Lo's mistakes. But for me, as a BDSM educator, as a person who understands the role of a dom or a top, the idea behind any adult relationship is that both parties should be responsible, but it is the responsibility of the dom or the top to think of these things, to be aware of these things. If you are really waiting to break up with somebody, you need to do that, and you need to do it in a way that is better and more ethical than a text message. Lo is not the only woman that I have spoken to who Jay broke up with over who wanted to break up over text message. Like, I know you and him had a conversation, but he has broken up with other submissives, collared slaves, over text message. And this is an issue. Like, this is not, even in vanilla land, it is not very mature to break up an intimate relationship over text message. I think he might have talked to you about this. Did he mention that he had any mentors, or did he anything like that?
He alluded to having one, and when I talked to him at the end of our relationship, asked if he would get one, and he said yes. but I don't think he has.
Okay.
But one more thing about that, I think. Oh, okay. So just to finish that really quick, I believe that the mistake that I made was being quick to jump into something, but I want to stress a lot. I want to stress this, that the fact that I got out of that, the fact that I got out of manipulation and gaslighting and emotional abuse and is not testament to other people's story. The only reason I did get out of that was because I knew it was a mistake, because I knew I made a mistake, and that because I've had so many years in this lifestyle. And my number one piece of advice about all of this is to listen to these other women's stories, to like listen and hear it, because my story in comparison is nothing. Because yes, he was horrible to me, but this was such a short period of time because I saw it, because he chose somebody who had experience. And that was not his normal way of going about the situation. He usually chooses people who don't have experience, and he made that mistake in this situation because I got out of it quickly. And these other women did not have that experience, and I want to make sure that everybody hears their story, because their story is so important, and it is so vital to understanding the man that Jay is and how harmful he is for this community, and how in all reality he is not a part of this community. This is not his life. This is not his lifestyle, and this is not his world. He is using our world to break us, to ruin lives, and that is cruel to me.
The next story I want to share with you is from Madison. Madison is a content creator and model. Madison lives in a different state than Jay, and so the interactions between them were a combination of long distance and him flying out to see her. Madison has provided a statement for me to share with you. I recommend that you read the whole statement linked down below. When I first met Jay, it wasn't what I expected. I think I came into it believing he'd be a dominant in every aspect, including when we weren't shooting. I was pleasantly surprised. We had great conversation, laughed, and talked about our children. Then we started the shoot. Things went amazing. I had never had someone check on me so many times. I felt safe. We did little space together. I had never done little space with another person before. He fed me juice and snacks. When the camera was turned off, he held me, cuddled me, pet me. We turned on a cartoon and he snuggled me on the couch for ages. I felt so good. The next day, I told him that I knew I was new to all of this, but I felt something when we were together. I asked him if it was just me being naive or if it was mutual. I didn't want to be inappropriate if it was just a part of the business. He told me that I had a boyfriend, so we couldn't go anywhere with it, of course, but that it was definitely mutual. He felt a connection too. We continued to chat and flirt, and when I came home with several contributing factors unrelated to Jay, I was ready to end my relationship, and I started to make moves to prepare myself for that. I want to pause and just focus on this point right here. Jay has a great habit of getting to know girls in small details just enough so he knows how to manipulate and move around them. He chooses girls who aren't always in a great position to start relationships, or girls who are in an emotional state of vulnerability where he can take advantage of them. Jay, as an educator or BDSMer, should know it is unethical to be intimate or play with people without their partners consenting to the interaction. If he knew she had a boyfriend, then by BDSM law alone, he should never have engaged with her in any form of play. I would like to remind everyone watching that this is a red flag. It is unorthodox to start a relationship or any power exchange within a few weeks of knowing a person. There is such a thing as pickup play, but this is usually with experienced or knowledgeable BDSMers, not with completely new people who have no idea how to negotiate for their safety. Every scene you do, every single interaction with a BDSM power exchange needs to be thoroughly negotiated, not something that you have as a casual conversation while sitting on a couch after a photo shoot. You actually need written documentation or some sort of proof that a negotiation occurred. This allows us to keep people in our community safe. It allows references to be had. Jay should never have played with her in any aspect until she was encouraged to look for his references or talk to his former play partners. But Jay continued the relationship in intimate talk without ever intending to be with her or explain to her the rules. Further down the statement, she says, "When he booked a flight to my city, he told me it was to work with models here, but it was also to see me. We continued to flirt nearly every day. He was always busy, so it was here and there versus a long, drawn-out conversation. But it was always mutual. I made sure to never once call him daddy, and I called him sir once. I never once let it on that I believed we would be in a relationship or that I was in love or that I believed he was my dom, but I did make it clear that I liked him and was attracted to him and looked forward to seeing him again. We never exchanged nude photos, simply flirtatious texts. About a week prior to him coming, I told my boyfriend I was done. My relationship ended, and I told Jay that it had finally happened. He seemed incredibly surprised. That was when he started to act differently, texted me back less frequently and less flirty. It was almost like he preferred me with a boyfriend than without. We discussed plans on seeing each other, so I kept trying to find out a date he wanted to do that. I would text once a day explaining that I was modeling. I schedule shoots 2 weeks in advance sometimes, and that I needed to know when he wanted to spend some time together, so I would make sure I was free. He wouldn't answer. Finally, 2 days before his trip, he gave me an answer. I believe it was for Wednesday. I can't remember. After weeks of texting and flirting, I got a cold and calloused answer regarding what date and time he was available. Something didn't seem right, but I didn't press because I assumed he was busy. Madison goes on to explain that Jay was seen flirting with other models online. She reached out. Things kind of blew up from there. She cried that night, worried. What did she do? What went wrong? Why was Jay acting differently? Jay does this with a slew of models. He acts like he loves, he acts like he cares, he acts like he's invested, but the moment it becomes not easy for him or not convenient, he bails. This is Jay's MO. We see through the recordings, we can hear it in his statements. He drops them the moment it gets complicated. The most unethical part of this is that he is in BDSM representing the lifestyle, and the lifestyle tries very hard to remain safe, sane, and consensual. And this is why talking about Jay matters. Look at this statement. Look at these girls' stories. Look at all the ways they connect. This man is calculated in his actions. One of Jay's other MOs is to repeatedly say that the models he has worked with in the past were crazy, obsessed, or in love with him. He said this to me on multiple occasions, and he said it to the other women as well. In relation to Madison, he made sure that people in her industry thought of her this way, and she lost work from it. Because of Jay, a model lost work. Madison's mental health took a turn for the worst. But after doing some research and digging, she found other girls whose stories matched hers. And then she found me. And after we began talking, it became clear that he had once again victimized another woman, and this one wasn't even in his own state. He's traveling. He's moving. After some of the controversy settled, Madison was able to repair her relationship, and she's in a much better place. Not every girl will have this opportunity, but I can hope through this video that they will. Let's move on to the other stories of the women Jay has affected. Hello everyone, welcome to this video where I am Brittany Simon interviewing
Sabrina
and
Danny.
And we are going to talk about BegForJay, who is a content creator here on YouTube. We wanted to hear from the stories of the women who have worked with him to get their side of the story and to hear about their experiences while working with him. So first and foremost, I'm gonna have Danny go first. Danny, can you explain who you are, why you're connected to this situation, and and we'll start there.
So I'm Danny. I'm a model and a professional Harley Quinn impersonator, and I met Jay last year through another model, and I asked her if he was safe to work with, and at the time she felt that he was safe enough to work with, and so I looked into his work. I saw that he did a lot of BDSM stuff, and I am personally in the BDSM world. I wouldn't say that I'm super educated at all, but I had DOMs, and I've been a sub for a little while, and so I wanted to show that side of my life to my following or my fans or whatever you want to call them. Mm-hmm. When I went to go work with him, I made sure it was live, and I quickly realized that he didn't really know too much about actually performing BDSM acts. Everything that we did was very, very much for show. Even the spanking was done wrong and couldn't even turn my butt red, so we had to edit red in to my butt. But I quickly learned that he was not real as a dom, and that it was for show. So that is how I kind of entered in, but I continued to work with him for showing the BDSM look in photo shoots.
So when you were involved with him, for what span of time was that? Do you recall exactly how long you were working with him?
It was about 2 months until I started meeting all the other girls.
So you were under the impression that it was just you he was working with or involved with, or in what capacity did you understand your relationship with him?
In my mind, I thought that we were working together and then also seeing each other on the side for fun. I didn't take it seriously. I got a lot of messages from girls that he definitely made me feel like we're fangirls and we're just jealous or whatever. So at first I kind of pushed it off to the side, and I just continued to think that I was just a girl that he was seeing and that it didn't matter. But I didn't think that he was lying about about me to anybody else. Really, I didn't know that was going on.
And while he was with you, you guys were sexually intimate?
Yes.
And were you practicing safe sex?
No, he did not use condoms. He actually didn't tell me about certain parts of his body before that I believe that you should tell people about beforehand, but...
Okay. And then when you guys were interacting together, did that overlap at all with Sabrina?
I think so. I think that from Sabrina, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that when I started working with him, or when I first started shooting with him, was about the end of their relationship, I believe.
Okay. Yeah, it was the last 2 months. It was the last 2 months of our relationship.
Okay, so let's go ahead and thank you, Danny. We're gonna ask Sabrina similar questions and then kind of bounce off one another. So Sabrina, can you explain who you are and your relation to Jay and kind of some of those situations?
So I was 19 when I met him. We were going to shoot. He actually asked me if I would model. I reached out because I wanted to do a photo shoot with him, but I didn't actually intend on modeling. I wanted to do like makeup or scenes or props or something, because I didn't know that it was a one-man show. I thought he had a crew. Idiot, I guess. But
well, no. I mean, there's a reason to assume that some people work alone or with crews, but like, you know.
So yeah, he mentioned me modeling instead, and so I went for it. I said, okay, cool. And at the time, I'd only had one dom before that. I was not very experienced, and I told him that right off the bat. And we shot. It was cool. It was fun, and he was really flirty, which I found kind of unprofessional, and so was a little distant from that. But he just kept pushing. He kept pushing the flirt. So we shot a second time, and that shoot was specifically to the DDLG, which, as far as I'd seen, he hadn't done anything like that before.
Oh, okay.
Nothing very Lolita-ish. So that all started after me.
Okay.
And he was very late because he was sleeping with another model.
Okay.
And later on, I came to find that this model she reached out and warned me once she saw that we started seeing each other regularly. After that, she reached out and warned me, and I started to talk to her, and I started confronting him about things, and he would become really upset and punish me for it. And the gaslighting, all the gaslighting after that. And I knew that was wrong. I saw all the red flags, and I didn't just ignore them, I brought them up. And for every time that I would confront him on these issues, it was a fight. He never tried to step back and say, maybe I'm doing this wrong, or can we discuss different things, or am I crossing any kind of boundary? He was never checking out for me. He was never... And like I said, I'd only had one dom before that, but I knew at least that well.
So how long were you guys interacting with each other? How long were you?
6 months.
6 months. And then were you having sex?
With him. No.
And was it safe sex?
No, never.
So no condoms
he said
ever?
He didn't believe in condoms.
He didn't believe in condoms.
I had asked if he had tests, and he did, but he didn't offer me any proof.
Okay.
And when I had asked for proof, he was very upset with me. I was punished for that.
Okay. We're going to take a pause because there's someone at the front door. So you weren't practicing safe sex. He didn't believe in condoms. At any point, did he disclose any STI status had changed?
Never.
Okay. And when you were confronting him about the other women he was sleeping with, what were some of the excuses he would use for not being fully honest with you in that regard, right? Because was he upfront about there were other women, or how did he kind of...
When I would ask him or tell him that I believed that he was sleeping with other women, he'd become really, really angry with me, and it was the gaslighting all over again. He made me feel crazy. He made me feel guilty for ever doubting him and not trusting him, and that was an issue ongoing throughout our entire relationship, was the fact that I did not trust him.
Okay.
And if I was to be a good girl, I needed to trust everything he did and said.
Now, when you guys entered into what would have been known as your BDSM dynamic, was there a contract?
Not a contract, no.
Not a contract.
Just verbal agreements.
And what were those like? Like, what became abundantly clear to you? Like, did he talk to you about... I guess I'm a little confused on... So you would ask him a question and then he would beat you for asking certain questions. Like, what made him...
I can give you an example.
Please.
So I was really interested in a play partner, and that was actually Danny. I really wanted Danny to be my play partner, which we talked about eventually, but... he would tell me, oh, we don't talk, which, as we know, the whole time he was actually seeing her and sleeping with her. And I suspected because I found a dirty rag with her hair on it in the playroom, which supposedly no one ever goes in the playroom and plays except for me, which again was a lie. And I didn't mind the idea of him seeing other girls. I wanted honesty.
Yes.
And I wanted testing, and none of which he wanted to give. So there was a time where I just wouldn't relent. I said, I know you're playing with her. I just want you to be honest, and if you're both okay with it, I would like to join at some point too, because I wanted her to be my play partner. And for that, he became really angry, and I was punished for that too.
But I still don't understand why you don't keep him. Why do you throw?
Because very, very much in the lifestyle. I have three.
Yeah, I could have 10 levels, 15 levels, 20.
It's not disrespectful to the community.
Most of them never wanted to be that way with me.
Did he explain to you his logic? Like, why in his head did he think it was appropriate to punish you for asking, well, really anything?
For not trusting him.
For not trusting him.
For not believing him. For accusing him of lying.
Okay. So I will talk about that and other statements about like the efficacy of BDSM and asking questions and inquiring questions. But in no study in the last 8 years of BDSM that I have held has it been appropriate for a non-slave new relationship under 5 years to build a relationship where you can't question the authority, considering that these are questions that anyone in a partnership should be asking. And I think that's my biggest concern, is that you are not the only woman who has asked him very basic, vanilla questions and then been punished through BDSM as a tool for abuse to silence your voices. And that's my biggest concern. And I wonder, Danny, when you were involved with him, did you have a formal BDSM relationship? Any contract, anything written out?
No.
Okay.
So I did not want a Dom at the time. I had no interest in having a Dom. I just wanted to see him, for fun on the side. And I did ask him multiple times to bring other girls in. I saw Sabrina. I actually really liked Kylie, and that she was the one that I went and hung out with her because I really liked her and I wanted to see her. And every time I brought up bringing another girl on board, I would message him multiple girls. I'd send him porn stars that I knew that I wanted to shoot with. I was trying very hard to get another girl involved.
To the community,
most of them never wanted to be that way with me.
And he always was just like, no, I don't want to do that. I just want it to be you. If it's going to be you, it needs to be special and just you because you're better or whatever. Like he would, just blow up my ego and try to make it seem like I just don't want another girl to take my mind off of you. Okay. And now I know that it was because he was telling the other girls that he didn't see me at all and that he didn't like me or he didn't respect me. So. And
this is an MO he's done with all the girls that I've spoken to, where he's made every single one think that he was only with them. And that is a huge issue for me because in open relationships or in BDSM or in poly or in anything where you're not strictly genuinely monogamous, this is just called lying, and even within those relationships that would be considered lying. The idea of open and honest and ethical non-monogamy is that you would make sure everyone is consenting to being in that relationship and everyone is aware of everyone in the relationship, or you've negotiated not to be aware but you're still aware that your partner is seeing somebody possibly. And it sounds like Jay made it sound like he was never involved with other people, but he really was. And we still don't know why he continuously kept you guys separate.
Okay, so you've got all these girls, and the MO seems to be bring them in, shoot them, push them away. They want you, they come back, they have sex with you. You tell them that they're the only one in the world, and it's only all them. They want to experiment with BDSM. You experiment a little bit.
It's only been 2 girls though.
2? I've got like
out of all
people.
those girls, there's only 2 that I've actually engaged in a full conversation about BDSM, aside from just questions off the top, like if
They asked me a
Which
question.
two?
Sabrina.
Okay.
But every other girl on that list, aside from that's her
Right.
name.
And for 6 years, you never heard that spitting on someone's assault.
No,
That,
of course.
so these women that you don't have a contract with, you feel it's okay?
I don't spit on every girl that I've spit on like 1 or 2 girls.
And I was pretty certain that he was sleeping with other girls. He was bragging online. You know, the way he talks, it always makes it sound like he's got a bunch of girls, or that a bunch of girls are messaging him, or that he's waking up with a bunch of girls. And then if I questioned it, he would say it's a joke. It's just for social media, blah, blah, blah. But I even would talk to my friends and be like, I know I'm not the only girl. I know I'm not the only girl. There's no way I can be the only girl that he's seeing when he's shooting like this with every girl, and every girl gets obsessed with him, and you know, there's just no way. So every time he would try to blow my ego, it would just piss me off.
Right. So in regards to both of you guys both did model work with him, and you had an intimate relationship with him. At what point did you understand that this was separate, this was work, this was intimacy, you know what I mean? Danny, do you want to go to first, and then we'll go to Sabrina?
Well, from the get-go, for me, there was work, and then because I definitely pursued hooking up with him and stuff, I saw that as completely side thing, that it had nothing to do. Whenever I went to go sleep with him, stay over at his house, anything, go on dates, I didn't shoot.
Okay.
So I kept it very separate.
Okay, Sabrina?
The very first time I shot with him and the very second time I shot with him was the only time that it was work only.
Okay.
Every other picture we took after that, he took during play.
Okay, so here's my question too. How many of you were in middle of what would be seen as a headspace for you as like a scene and work at the same time? And did those things ever overlap? Which, Sabrina, it sounds like it did with you. You want to start first?
Yes, I have photos. I'll give them to you. You can share them.
Okay. Of times when it was like, okay.
Yes.
Did you want to share any of that right now? A story or anything?
It was
as an example?
consensual. It was completely consensual, so I don't feel it's all too necessary.
Okay.
Except that it's unprofessional.
Right. So my biggest concern with Jay is that there seems to be this overlap of when we're playing and when we're filming. And the reason you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing as like the top or dom is because your bottom is experiencing a lot of sub drop. They're experiencing adrenaline rushes. They're experiencing physical torment to their body. And at the same time, you're maybe putting that pressure of them to look quote unquote beautiful or attractive or whatever else for vanilla consumption. The problem with Jay's work is that it is primarily for vanilla consumption. And that is an issue. And it's especially an issue as a BDSM educator because for me, like I do not film my scenes because I know how much focus I need to have on my bottoms. And if I do want pictures of my scenes, we negotiate previously and we explain when we're putting in the camera because there is something very special about BDSM when you go deep. There's something very, very important that happens and it really is an extreme toll on your body and your mind. And separating these things is important. And if you are experienced enough, you maybe don't have to separate these things. But for new people under 5 years to come in and to be thrown into the whirlwind of BDSM, sex, and then being published and then being put out on the internet, that does worry me as an educator, and I'll jump into that on my personal statement later, but that is a worry for me. And I wonder, Danny, was there any point for you too where you were in a shooting, like you were shooting for the internet, but then he would treat you like you were doing a BDSM scene, or was that separate?
Well, just literally the first time that we slept together, we had shot earlier in the day, and then we went on to hang out. I think we went out to eat or something like that, and then we slept together for the first time. That's when I had already noticed that he wasn't doing very BDSM-y things during our shoots, but sleeping with him made me realize that he didn't know anything real. I mean, it was the most vanilla sex I've ever had in my life, ever. So I was never in the middle of shooting with him, and then he started punishing me or anything, because with me, my impression until I met these other girls that he had actually physically hurt, my impression was that he was weak as fuck.
My worry about Jay, my biggest worry, is that it all is just kind of like a fetishized, pornographized, like, version of BDSM, which is fine. Like, no one's, as a sex worker and as somebody who promotes sex work, like, in no way, shape, or form are we saying that sex work is negative. We're saying that people who use sex work to push agendas, claim they're doing authentic BDSM, will end up being the people who will hurt people in this community, who will hurt the models they work with, because the models will have a tendency on, Jay's models will be young. I don't think anyone's been over 25 or 23 that I know of.
I'm almost 26.
Okay, so the oldest one. Okay, so I haven't. So
yeah,
most
I think
of them.
I am the oldest one. Oh no, he's the oldest one.
Okay, so there have been variations of ages, and all of them. I mean, some of them as young as like 18, 19, and that 16, that breaks 17. My soul a lot. So okay, so there is a possible minor involved.
Definitely.
Okay, I was aware of a possible.
Not even.
I was aware of a person who was a minor, but I have not been contacted by this person. Is anyone going to be able?
I have no idea who that is.
Okay, so Danny, maybe you can talk to me after we're not on camera, and you can give me their contact info, and I can try to get them to make a statement.
I honestly, I don't have her contact info because she's gone.
Oh, she's that one.
She was attacked, but
okay.
Is the little kitten the one who was like, yeah.
Okay.
She was 17.
Okay, I did hear about somebody. There are a couple of girls that have worked with Jay that have like completely disappeared, and I'm not sure what that means. I'm not sure if they just went into safety or to therapy or to anything, but there is a clear MO with Jay, and we just want to get everyone's stories out on video or on paper so we can kind of share that.
A lot of the issue too with these girls that disappear or seem to disappear is the fact that all of us have gotten their Instagrams deleted, and they didn't want to recreate their Instagrams, or they went and made new Instagrams with different names and didn't post any BDSM stuff because they obviously got deleted over the Jay stuff. So
they got deleted because they had him on their Instagram? Yeah,
because they were shooting with him and their pictures were getting reported with with their work with him, and then their whole Instagrams get taken down.
One of the things I want to make completely clear is that the way that Jay has conducted himself as a person on the internet has been a how-to educator. Even though he constantly says I'm not an educator, he has made it abundantly clear with his how-to videos that he has every intention of teaching people how to do BDSM and versions of BDSM that he himself does not even practice, and that is something that we will talk about later in the video because I have proof for that, where he admits he does not exactly practice what he preaches because he makes mistakes, and we're going to talk about those mistakes. And I wondered if either of you ladies wanted to talk about some of the ways that he would interact with you, which was obviously abusive, but he would blame it on making a mistake or being BDSM, or you had to listen because he was in charge. Who wants to go first?
I have so many examples.
Danny, did you have any examples you wanted to keep in mind while Sabrina tells her story? Okay, so Sabrina, tell a story, and then we'll go to Danny's story so we can hear some first-hand accounts.
Okay, I have many, but I have a permanent injury from one of them. And it's really personal and it's really embarrassing, but I think it's very important. I was practicing kitten play with him. This was something that I really wanted to do, and he said he'd never done it before, but that he'd be happy to try that with me. And part of which I wanted to wear a butt plug with a tail on it. And so we were searching together, and I found one I wanted that had a really, really small size, and I was digging deep, asking questions. Everyone was telling me start small and then you can work your way up until you're comfortable using the actual body part. And he insisted he didn't want to do it that way. He wanted to just go straight in. And I really didn't feel that was safe, and I was nervous, and I told him, I expressed to him very clearly that I didn't think we needed to do it that way, but Daddy knows best and you need to listen to Daddy. And so, of course, he went ahead and it hurt so bad, and I bled a lot, and I still bleed to this day, and it's been over a year. And I'm seeing a doctor about it, and I need to potentially get surgery for it, and it's just a mess. It's awful and painful, a pain that I experience physically every single day. And when I had mentioned this to him, as I was discovering that this isn't just a little bruise that needs to heal from playtime, it's an actual injury, he was happy. He was glad that I had a permanent injury, and he told me that means that you will never forget me.
And were you able to contact him after that point to...
After that, I never wanted any
You
contact
never mentioned
with him
it
again.
Okay. Danny, did you want to share a story?
Like I said, my interactions with him before were very... I assumed that he was actually really vanilla because of a lot of the stuff that he did. But he did try to scare... I guess try to scare a lot of these girls into thinking that he was a gang member. He did bring me around people that he claimed were his his leaders in his gang. He had me sit in the back of his car while I had to watch him discuss gang stuff, and I had to hide and be scared, and he just tried to instill fear in me about his lifestyle, but I did not experience the physical abuse, mainly because all of the stuff that we did BDSM related, I did on live camera.
Okay.
I did for my Instagram, so he didn't have the opportunity to do that with me.
My fear is, with all of the research that I've been doing about Jay, is that he is the kind of human that has no remorse when it comes to using other humans for his benefit in a way that is really, really abusive. Not just, oh, she kind of fell for my half-ass pyramid scheme, but that he literally cannot feel empathy or sympathy. He has no interest in feeling that for these women or these people that he interacts with. And my worry is that he is going to keep getting away with hurting people because no one's holding him accountable. And what we're trying to do through all of these videos and sharing our statements is to make it clear that regardless of how you feel about BDSM, he has broken our safety protocol and our lifestyle, which we put in place through tradition, through many, many years of communities building in the United States to keep our participants safe, sane, and we're making sure everyone is consenting. So for BDSM, I don't just ask that people have consent, I ask that they have informed consent, which means if Jay, who has collared people within 2 weeks of knowing them, which is completely unorthodox. It's not a rule, but it's unorthodox for a reason. It's considered highly unusual and very possibly a red flag or dangerous. He has collared 19-year-olds within 2 weeks of knowing them, which is completely ridiculous. And my fear is that he's going to keep continuously doing this and convincing new girls and new girls after new girls that everyone else who's worked with him is crazy, which, by the way, is a red flag. So an example of what I want to tell you ladies is like, if you go to the BDSM dungeon and you ask for someone's references, if they do not give you references, that is a red flag that you should not play with them. In the same way, I want you to treat Jay the same way. So if you are currently working with him, or if you've worked with him and you're not sure, or if you're thinking about working with him, hold him up to that standard. Ask for at least 6 to 8 references, considering he's worked with so many models, and make sure that they are models he is no longer working with, as well as models he is currently working with. That way you will find out why people stopped working with him, why people don't want to associate with him, or you'll find out the current state of the people working with him, and then you can move forward from there. So we're going to move into talking about how the girls kind of discovered each other, how they realized what Jay was doing, and then moving into why the work they did with him is no longer on the internet, because that's really important to the story.
Started when I was working with Jay, and we were in dating together. At that point, I was signing at WonderCon, and Sabrina actually came up to my table that day when I was at WonderCon, and we took pictures together, and I sent it to him. He never answered me about that, by the way. So I met Sabrina, and I really loved her, and I also met, and I really loved her as well, which is another former model of Jay's.
Okay.
And we really liked each other. We just ended up being friends on social media for a minute. We would message each other. But I really, really wanted to hang out with Kylie. And I got invited to go to the circus, so I invited Kylie, Oddities and Things, to come meet me there. And that was our first time ever hanging out. And while we were hanging out, through our conversation, she quickly realized that what I was saying didn't match up with what Jay was talking about me, saying that I didn't know anything about Harley Quinn and that he had never really hung out with me outside of shooting, and she got mad and she asked me if we'd been sleeping together, and I don't lie about those things, and I didn't know that it was a secret. So I told her yes, and she was upset, and things started coming out. She started telling me all the things that he said and all the lies, and we started matching up dates of when we both had seen him, when we both had shot with him, and things like that. And then I believe Kylie got into contact with who was his current sub at the time. But I didn't like that he was doing all these videos. He had never done any video before like that. It was never that dirty. It was never that hardcore. It was all very placed, a hand on the throat or holding the gag. There was never anything that was too overboard, too pornographic. And then it just got more and more. So Kylie convinced me that I needed to stop, and I needed to actually talk to her myself, and that we needed to actually figure out what was really going on. And so me and Kylie got pretty much as many girls together as we could. I think, Sabrina, you were one of the first people to come over to my house with Kylie and then we got came in, who was really more of she wasn't a victim of his, but she kind of was our mother of the whole thing. She helped us figure out all of the bad things that he was doing, because she had been so experienced in BDSM, and a lot of us really weren't, and we're very, very young. We're all under 25. None of us really know too much about the BDSM community or BDSM world. As much as we'd love to say that we do, we don't. So she really helped us understand what was going on wrong in the situation, and helped us come together as a group of women rather than a group of girls that were mad at each other over a boy. And so we all got together, and then he started working with me. Or we found out that he was going to work with me. We contacted him. And, we found out about a lot of the allegations, and he wanted to put it all together. So then we all made our statements. We all came together to try to make our statements and create a group. So that's how we kind of all came together and decided that this couldn't continue on anymore, and our work shouldn't be up anymore with Jay. We can't be promoting him. We can't promote his name anymore. I have some following, so I didn't want that people to be seeing me shooting with him and then go try to work with him. So I took down any work with him. And personally, I made a t-shirt, "Don't beg, they obey," as my little kick at him, to try to have a little bit of a fight against Jay at the time, because it was really all I could think of doing.
Now, did you guys contact Jay and talk to him and say, hey, like, you're doing these things, or was it so apparent that he was just not going to pay attention?
Kylie did.
Okay,
Kylie
so one
did
girl
on multiple occasions.
Okay.
Kylie,
So
did posted on his page. And I made my shirts, and I had messaged him, calling him out about lying about, and I did not personally send allegations at him going, you did this to this girl and this to this girl. I just called him out for lying to me about whether he was even seeing or not.
Right.
And then he didn't want to talk to me anymore after that anyways, so and he didn't want to plan to shoot with me anymore after that, neither did I. So from there, I was just talking to all the girls. I didn't want to talk to him.
Oh, so you guys contacted a master in the community. The master in the community tried to reach out and help. Is that why your work is no longer on the internet with Jay also?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Made it apparent to Jay that if he was to go forward with any kind of work with him, that he was to delete everything and just start over completely. He said no social media for you in regards to BDSM at all whatsoever until you train under me. And at first Jay was I guess he was willing to try to cooperate to get into what's called the that's an program that Jay wanted to be a part of. And so he deleted everything of ours on his computer as well as on all of his social media, which we found out there were pictures of us on social media that we did not consent to on Tumblr. Yeah. And that's why all of our work is gone completely, although I do have it still personally on my own phone.
Okay.
And I want you to share that. That way everybody knows. Yeah, I'd known Danny has hers as well. And then After that, he told he did not want to be trained or mentored by anyone, and so forget it. I don't want you.
Okay.
I don't want to help you. I don't want to help reform you in any way if you're not gonna be willing to learn.
Okay. Danny.
Also, I want to add a huge reason why a lot of our stuff is no longer on his social media is because we've had him deleted so many times. I mean, he has made over 10 accounts, and every time Instagram has fully deleted him, he hasn't been able to get it back, and he just recreates another account. Mm-hmm. So he gets all this new work with all these new girls, and he doesn't need to put his old stuff up anymore, you know? And he knows that we would...
That's a great point. This isn't... I think one of the reasons I wanted to get heavily involved with this is because I myself promoted Jay after one of you reached out to me and said, hey, is he a safe person? And I met him, and I met him physically twice. We talked on the phone plenty, and then we texted a bit, and it became apparent that he was not experienced. I made the mistake of assuming he was just some young douchey dom that really kind of messed up on occasion with young, inexperienced girls. But after recently, I heard stories about literal physical abuse that landed people to have to look at surgery options, the beating of a 19-year-old newly collared within 2 weeks sub that left her bleeding, a different person. These things are not just mistakes. They're you have to pay for even the mistakes you've made, but he repeatedly does the same mistake. So at that point, it's not a mistake, right? It's a deliberate choice. It's a malicious choice. And so we need to, as adults in this industry, in this lifestyle, because you have to be an adult to be in BDSM, have to understand that it's our job to stand up against predators who will use our community to abuse people, that this isn't something that is coming from a place of irrational concepts about what you should be doing. I, myself, Brittany Simon, am willing to make a public statement that I do not see him as a positive influence in our community. I see him as a danger in my community. I would not allow him at my dungeon. He is banned from places like Seattle. He is banned from places in LA. He will continue to be banned as his reputation precedes him because he himself is making decisions every time he interacts with a new person or a model and tricks them into allowing him to beat them. He is breaking BDSM law and protocol. That is not okay. Regardless of how you feel, it is objectively not okay. And so we will proceed forward with this kind of a statement to say, look, we couldn't get you through Instagram. You wouldn't listen. We've tried. I myself offered Jay a formal mentorship from a submissive's perspective because I realized he did not know how to treat a submissive. And I told him, as a submissive, I will show you. And he, as a reply, said, I don't want you to turn me into your dream dom, which I then replied, do you have a pussy? And he was like, well, no. And I was like, great, you will never be my ideal dom. And that is because my dream dom is a woman, because I'm gay. But also, what's important is that he understands if he was in the community, he would know a formal mentorship does not involve turning someone into your perfect anything. It means I'm giving you tools for you to be a bigger, better person. So when you leave my mentorship, you're a full-fledged, a knowledgeable participant in BDSM. It's about you. It's not about your mentor. It's about making you into a whole person. So you're safe in our community. The fact that he rejected one mentorship and then another mentorship from people who have far more experience than him. Exactly. It tells me that he himself is not interested in my community. He's not interested in learning. He's interested in knowing just enough so he can take advantage of new people, so he can say the right things in videos, which for the most part, he says like 85% of the stuff he says in his videos, and I've watched every single one, is technically correct, but is useless if he himself is not practicing what he preaches, which he does not. We have text messages, I have videotapes, I have audio, I have everything that I need as a BDSM individual to say this person is literally a danger. This isn't a joke, this isn't for fun. He's a danger. So we're gonna move into one last in particular thing that I think stood out to me at least. So Jay is a photographer. He's a video content creator, and one of the things that he's been doing is using models to essentially boost his platform, working with models who are established, alt models who aren't, and so on. And I wanted to ask what experiences Sabrina and Danny have had in relation to this, because I myself have had my own, and I wondered conversations you've had where he's, wanted to use models for views rather than respect them as humans. Do you know what I mean? Sabrina, do you want to go ahead and share maybe some of the interactions you had?
Yes, so as I previously mentioned, I was very interested in becoming a play partner with some of his other models, and Danny was one of them. I was really persistent about her, and I felt that she was somewhat interested in me at some point as well, because we were responding well with each other on Instagram, and he refused to bring her in. He said, I only want her for numbers, I only want her for more followers, and that's the only reason I work with her, and I don't even like Harley Quinn, etc., etc. I thought that was really rude, and it was pretty disappointing seeing that I was interested in her, and I was pretty positive that he was sleeping with her. Do you want me to get him down?
I am so allergic. I'm sorry, I was so distracted by that dog.
I'm sorry. He's a lover. So I was very disappointed, and it didn't sit with me well that he spoke so poorly of Danny, seeing that it was pretty obvious he was sleeping with her. So if he's having those kind of relations with a woman, you would think he would have some kind of respect for her or some kind of regard, but instead he blatantly insulted her on multiple occasions. It's a disgusting behavior, and I don't think anyone like that has any right to call themselves a dom.
Yep, and I just want to say on that front, just really fast, my like brain is going off, but this is another red flag to keep in mind, guys. When you're living an alternative lifestyle, one of the things you want is transparency and honesty. There's a difference between being private to vanillas and being private to people you're literally physically involved with, considering that their health is at risk every time you lie to them that you're not involved with somebody else. So regardless of how you want to live out your alternative lifestyle, you have to give your future possible partners informed consent so they understand exactly what they're consenting to. Danny, did you have a story to share as well?
Well, it kind of just goes along with that, because that was really about what he did to me. I mean, when he started working with me, his following was at like 3,000 or 4,000. Like he didn't have a lot of a following, and obviously, you know, that's a lot of my job. It's a lot of what I do. I'm not really that caring of having a giant following, but as far as my job goes, it's important to have one. So it's become a part of my job to grow a following, and Harley Quinn is literally my entire heart and soul. I mean, it's everything that I do, and he wanted to work with me because of my Harley Quinn and because of my popularity with Harley Quinn. Obviously, every time we shot, he wanted it to have to do with that. He asked me to bring my Harley stuff. When I was at WonderCon, when I met Sabrina, he would send me messages all day, ask me to send him very specific Harley Quinn, you know, videos, and said that I needed to show up at his house later dressed as Harley. I actually got all into Harley one time and was about to leave to go to his place. He lived 2 hours away from where I was living.
Okay.
And he canceled on me for Coco. And just wanted me to come later. He wanted me to wait around for him, and I was like, I don't wait around for anybody, sorry. He really was feeding into the whole Harley Quinn thing with me a lot, and to find out from not just Sabrina, but I don't know, 4 or 5 other girls, that he said the exact same thing, that he didn't think that I knew anything about Harley Quinn, that he was only using me for my popularity and because of the Suicide Squad popularity. And I saw it. I saw his following just skyrocket, and a lot of my followers joined him and then unjoined him once, you know, I made my statements.
Yeah.
But it was clear that he was using me for that, and it's really sad.
That is really sad, and I'm sorry that this had to happen to so many people, but I'm really proud of you guys for being here, and I'm proud that we can make this statement now. And of course, as like an educator, I made the mistake of not vetting him far enough before promoting him, and I've taken down everything we've done together. I actually have to edit a couple of videos that he used his voice in, edit his voice out and repost, because some of those videos are still educational, but I don't want Jay in any way associated with those videos.
You should delete your comments on his videos, because you have comments on his videos of you writing hearts and stuff.
So that is another thing that we will be doing in the process of this video. I've been screen capping all the comments I left on his videos, so I don't want people to think I'm hiding that I knew him. I want people to understand that I no longer want people to go onto his videos and see my name being positive and then assume that I promote him. So that is that is totally going to be in the process of making this I guess, film. And I want people to understand that even if I, in the past, made this mistake and we all got duped, I'm here to tell you now, on my reputation, that Jay is a danger to our community. All the messages, all the pictures, all the video, audio, like, this man isn't just some douchebag. He uses that to play off his activity, but these aren't just douchebag mistakes. He's a literal liar. He lies about his name, his age, his place, his education, his experience, and these are things that will eventually land someone in the grave. And I'm not exaggerating. Experienced BDSMers end up dying, let alone inexperienced ones. Now, for final statements, ladies, I'm going to give you the floor. Danny, if you want to make a final statement for everyone to know, that'll be great, and then we'll go to Sabrina.
I just want to say that it doesn't matter what style a girl is shooting in. It doesn't matter if she is doing BDSM, nudity, implied nudity, lifestyle, fashion, glamour, whatever. Just because we put ourselves on camera and we are in a sexual situation, it doesn't mean that we've given consent to everything. And it doesn't mean that we don't have the right to say when something went wrong. And people like Jay don't deserve to have that hold over us just because we've shot in BDSM situations with him. And that has been a huge problem with people knocking his allegations by saying, well, you guys chose to do this. And nobody chooses to be abused. Nobody chooses to be lied to. Nobody chooses to be raped. And nobody chooses to be hurt. And we deserve to be listened to. Everybody deserves to be listened to.
Thank you, Danny. Sabrina?
I specifically want to address that if you show any signs of a lack of empathy, you deserve no right to be a dominant, because to be a proper, understanding dominant, you have to have empathy, because you have to care about what your submissive is going through. And Jay has stated on many occasions that he doesn't think empathy is a necessary thing to have. He believes it's weakness. And to not only call yourself a dom, but also call yourself a daddy it's disgusting. It's disgusting that you would reach out to one of the most vulnerable members of the BDSM community, littles, young littles, inexperienced littles who have a hurt past. Get to know them, break down everything you know, all of their weaknesses, everything that hurts their heart, and use that to destroy them. Because it wasn't just physical abuse, it was emotional. It was torment. It was taking everything he could about a person and using it to destroy them and break them down entirely, and being proud of it and bragging about it and boasting about it. And that's narcissistic, and it's disgusting. And you should be ashamed of yourself.